I miss the days of turning on the television and seeing food mascots like the Noid, Cool Spot, and Chester Cheetah gracing the airwaves. When I see anything with those characters pop up on the internet or anywhere else, I instantly have that wave of comfort sweep over me because it brings me back to a time when advertising wasn't afraid to be ridiculous and take chances. There was a sense of a more soulful nature to the commercials. It wasn't overly produced, there was no CGI. The Noid was claymation or stop-motion animation. But what was also cool was that these characters all got their own video games. And it didn't matter if the games were good or not. We were just happy to play anything that contained these characters because we already had an emotional connection to them from seeing them for years on television, whether we realized it or not. Drinking soda out of a Spud Mackenzie glass, going to the grocery store and picking up a bag of Cheetos with your grandmother. They weren't just mascots, they were a part of our lives. And maybe, just maybe, we felt more comfortable with them than we did with our own friends and family because they could never do us wrong. God bless Cool Spot, God bless Chester Cheetah, and God bless the United States of America. Anyway, let's talk about the games. Starting out with Spot, this 7-Up mascot had a number of games released, but the one that I feel is the most remembered is Cool Spot, both on SNES and Sega Genesis. I really like the vibe and idea of this game, but when it comes down to actually playing it, I get quickly annoyed. However, it's a very nice looking game from Virgin Games, who also happened to create McKids on NES. They were the go-to for food marketing, I suppose. Spot is a tiny little dot in a big world, kind of like Toy Story on Super Nintendo, I guess. There is so much happening around you that it's easy to take a hit from one of the hermit crabs who pop up. You have to rescue all of your fellow Spots while finding your way to the end of the level. It's a cute and fun idea, but the way you're jumping all around can get a bit confusing. There's also Spot Goes to Hollywood, which I personally dislike due to odd controls, and Spot, The Cool Adventure on Game Boy. That one strangely feels a bit like McKids with the way you toss blocks, and I kind of like it. Next up, we have the Noid. Yo! Noid on NES was a platformer where you go through stages and do bonus games. One bonus stage is like whack-a-mole, and the other is a card matching game that's essentially rock, paper, scissors. I feel like a lot of people enjoy this game, but I cannot get into it for the life of me. Something just feels off, which I guess is appropriate for the Noid. Next up, it's time to talk about everyone's favorite cheetah in Chester Cheetah Too Cool to Fool on Genesis and Super Nintendo. Much like Cool Spot, this also has a super colorful and cheerful vibe that I can appreciate. I mean, just look at that cover, it's badass. It's a platformer where you're basically trying to bust out of a zoo that you're being kept in, while also collecting Cheeto Paws here and there. I don't like going down into the tubes though. Maybe I'm claustrophobic. There were a bunch of others too, like Kool-Aid Man on Coleco, Pepsi Man for PlayStation, McKids on NES, Coca-Cola Kid for Game Gear, and even a cancelled NES game of California Raisins. I wish this trend didn't stop. I miss the wackiness of food mascots. Let's have a Gecko game on the Switch because why not? Or better yet, a Mr. Peanut game. Why do these mascots mean anything to me? I think it's the familiarity. Chester Cheetah has been around my whole life and it's good to see him around. The world kind of sucks now, so I'll take what I can get. People don't like these characters because of some animated show or video game. They like them because they grew up around the food products. You see the picture of the character and it's familiar and comfy. Like Mr. Peanut. Mr. Peanut rules.